What's going on, everyone? It is Garrett and welcome back to a old-fashioned tutorial. So in today's video we're going to be going over on creating this pretty cool retro beveled text effect, and you guys can use this for any type of style text you want, but I personally think this looks a lot better on brush fonts, custom typography with this kind of curvy bold theme to it. Definitely looks the best, but you guys can use this on your personal logos, on regular text, it doesn't really matter, but definitely I would recommend trying it out on these curvy fonts first. So basically, to talk about this really quickly, I want everyone to plan ahead when we're doing this, and what I mean by that is try to figure out which colors you want to use first, whether you want to use only a shade of blue or red or orange. You guys want to try to mix, yellows and oranges and reds together. Whatever you want to do, try to plan ahead and figure it out ahead of time, because once we start designing, it's going to get a little crazy and definitely going to be changing colors and stuff like that on the fly, but it's always good to plan ahead. So into this tutorial, we're going to be using mostly Illustrator, but we are going to be using Photoshop for some of the things. Photoshop parts come in for about 5 seconds, and that's basically it. So hopefully you guys have both. If you have Illustrator, you should have Photoshop. If not, I would definitely recommend going and installing the trial. You guys can check out the Adobe trials in the description below. Definitely I recommend having both. So to get into this, what we want to do is go over to Illustrator and go to File, New, and just create a new document, 1280 by 720. And then we're going to scroll out, and like I said, we want to plan ahead, and I already know ahead of time that I'm going to be using the color blue for most of my work. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the background a very dark blue. So what we're going to do is make a huge rectangle covering the background, make sure there's no color for your stroke, head over to the bottom left right here, or you guys can click X on your keyboard to the fill, and then go to the blue colors you kind of want to use, whether it's a really bright blue, like a cyan, or like a baby blue, dark blue, or almost purple blue. Go to whatever color you want to use, and then go almost to the bottom right until you can see that this little circle is about like a centimeter off the screen. Click OK, and you're gonna see that it has a very dark look to it, but this definitely is not black. It's definitely a very dark blue. If you want to use a straight up black, you guys can, but I would recommend going to a weird color blue first. So lock that layer, create a new one, and let's go find ourselves a cool font to use. So what I'm going to be showing you guys how to find things on is on dafont.com, and to cut to the chase, you guys can basically find any font you want. You guys can read all the different versions, but I would go over to the right side to script, scroll down to brush, and you're going to get all these fonts that I'm exactly talking about, these kind of the kind of diner looking fonts that you'd see on like milkshake ads and stuff like that. Right here you're going to see preview, and so figure out what name you want to use. I'm going to be using the letter G, but sometimes I use Garrett, company's names, whatever I am using at the time. I always type it in the preview here, and so I'm always going to do a capital and a lowercase version. So I'm doing an uppercase G and a lowercase g, and it basically gives me an idea of everything that I want to see. So if I was you guys, I would definitely scroll through all the versions of this. You want to stay away from these kind of fonts that have missing gaps in between them. Definitely try to find something that's clean and bold strokes, unless you're going to have to go in and pen tool all of that stuff out. So once you find a font, install it to your computer and head over to Photoshop now. So we're going to create a new document. It can be 1200 by 500, 1920 by 1080, 500 by 500. Doesn't really matter what size it is. Hit that T button on your keyboard and type in the letter or the name you're going to be using. Double click it, go to your font tab, type in the font you want to use. I'm using the font called Mostardo. It's going to be in the link to the description below. And right here, I'm just going to basically hit Control T, hold Shift to make it bigger. I'm going to put it in the middle. So at first, the color does not really matter because we're going to be changing it in the options. So right click on the text in your layers tab, go to blending options, and then go to color overlay, and make it a solid white. Go to Bevels and Emboss, and we're basically going to talk about all of this. So the reason why we're using Bevels and Emboss is it's going to highlight a very rough idea of the highlights and shadows between everything in the font, and it just basically cuts down time so much faster for us because all we want to do is create, and this basically knocks out the rough ideas between everything. So right here you're going to see shading, and you can definitely change the angle on where the light's coming from. I would just recommend leaving it the way it was, just because once you start messing with it, it's going to start looking a little bit weird. So it's usually in the middle. I would just recommend trying to leave it to where it was. And you can use global light, you can mess around with it, but like I said, try to leave it where it was, just so it's easier for you to work with. For the style, make sure it's on an inner bevel. Technique is on chisel hard. For the depth, always put that to 100. Soften all the way to 0, because once you start using soft stuff, it's going to start blurring everything, and you want to see those hard cuts because that's exactly what we're using with the pen tool. For size, I would definitely make it between like 18 and 20, or sorry, no, 10 and 20. Just get a rough idea on where all of these shadows are coming from. If it's better that you see it like this, so be it, but I definitely like seeing it more so like that. For colors, now this is really important. You want to use colors that are opposite of each other on the color spectrum. So if I'm going to be using orange, I want to use yellow. If I'm using green, I want to use red. If I'm going to use blue, I'm going to use orange. So definitely try to figure out what you're going to use. I'm using red and green. Green is going to cover my shadows, red's going to cover my highlights. Just keep that in mind. But that's basically it. Click OK on your keyboard. If you want to make a new layer above that and grab a really small size brush on a hardness 0, and just make like arrows pointing at the top to kind of know where the lighting's coming from, just to kind of get like a good idea. You guys can definitely do that. It'll help you understand better on, you know, color theory and how light perspective comes into play. But I'm just going to keep it the same because it's a lot easier for me. If I steal those arrows, I'm going to start freaking out. So let's get into this. Now we're about 6 minutes in. We're about to crank out this logo. So type into Illustrator on your document your name, your letter, or paste in your logo. Change the font in the character side. Make this bigger, holding Alt and Shift. Go to Object up here in the top and then click Expand. Now we're going to expand this so we have the paths so we can use the Shape Builder tool to cut everything out. Go to Window, Align, or click Shift F7, and then basically click the horizontal align center and the vertical align center, and then we can go to Fill and put that to white right now. So we want to try to pick a color we want to use for the base layer. So we're going to need a color for the base layer, we're going to need a color for the highlights, and a color for the shadows, especially when we're working with this. So at first I'm just going to be using a regular blue, and you can either make it a light blue, a dark blue, a white blue. It doesn't really matter what blue you're going to be using, just because we can change everything later on. This looks perfectly fine to me. And what I'm going to be doing now is going back and forth, kind of doing everything one piece by one piece to kind of figure out everything. Now, when we do this in Photoshop, when we see the bevels and emboss, you're going to see these crazy hard cuts out of the corners. Personally, when I'm doing this, I kind of like to have everything with a kind of like an organic flow. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer. I'm going to lock that G that we have right here. Go to the new layer, and I'm basically going to kind of create a another shadow between it, and I'm just trying to keep in mind everything that I saw on that Photoshop document. And like I said, I don't like to have these crazy chiseled lines, so I like to have it kind of curve out, and then make sure that it goes between everything, and these kind of these big color shapes are on the outside. So now that we have that, what we can do is go over to our color tool, our fill tool, basically grab a little darker blue, bringing this up, or a little darker color, and then bring it to the bottom right a little bit and click OK. And kind of mess with this a little bit to kind of see what color you want. And then once we find something, click that, hold Shift, unlock your layer tool right here, click your G, grab the shape builder tool on the left hand side, hold Alt on your keyboard, and click this little extra big slab of color, and you're going to see it goes away, and you're going to have a shadow. So I know a lot of people are probably saying, like, Garrett, what are you going to do? You see this really rough edge. All you have to do is click on it and basically grab the tools with the transformer path right here and just kind of mess around just a little bit more. Sometimes your stuff might come out a little bit, and sometimes it might just mess around with your paths and stuff like that. But honestly, it's not that hard just to drag more things around. And you know, God forbid if you have to grab your shape builder tool again. It takes no time. So then you can have something kind of like this. Just make sure that every time you do it, your path is even, your path is clean. You don't want something that looks super bumpy, and it kind of has a clean flow throughout all of it. So boom, you have one piece done so far. Go back into Photoshop, check out where the next big green highlight slab is. Keep in mind where it is. Head over here, and you're basically going to be doing this for the entire time, and you don't really have to worry between what layer it's on now. We just had to do that so we can get the first piece done. And yeah, it's just basically kind of relaxing. It's a little therapeutic, I'm gonna be honest, doing this. It just honestly is very calming. Basically create a big path around it, bring it on the outside into the black, hold shift, click your G base layer, grab your shape builder tool over here on the left hand side, hold alt, click that big slab out, and then look at it, make sure that it's the way you want it. If you're going to be editing things up here where these little edges touch, just try to create a couple paths up there just so your computer knows that it shouldn't break apart this little top piece. That's just a big help, especially when I started doing this. I realized a lot of the time that I would touch right here and the whole thing would break apart, so definitely try to create extra paths throughout this just to make sure that it doesn't break apart like that. So you want to basically do the entire thing that exact way. And if you guys get bored quickly, this might not be the thing for you, but it's definitely a lot of fun, especially when you start making final products between things. And like I said, I think it's pretty therapeutic. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about it. Some people might find it boring, some people might not find it worth it, but I'm definitely interested to know. And so this doesn't take very long. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward the video so you guys can see the final product of me doing all the shading. And just keep in mind when you're doing this, like I said guys, you can go from here, you can go back into Photoshop just to see where everything is. Just making sure that you do everything piece by piece. So do the shadows first, then do the highlights. So I'm going to quickly fast forward to I'm doing the shadows, and then we're going to go back into the highlights. See you in a bit. Alright, so I am back. I am done with all of the shadows in my thing. Pretty easy to do. It didn't really take me that long after I said peace out. I know it took a second for you guys to figure that out, but I was gone for about a minute or two. So to really talk about this, like I said, I keep going back and forth from Photoshop into Illustrator, and I definitely mess around with other things that I like to see in my own designs, whether it's kind of different kind of styles, having this little bump right here. It's just what I like putting instead of, you know, copying this really hard edge piece by piece. So that's going to be the shadows. I did all of mine on a separate layer, so I can basically label this shadows. And then what I'm going to be doing now is going to be all of the highlights. So to find a highlight color, what you want to do is click I on your keyboard, click that blue main color right there, double click on your fill color or hit X so you have your color picker, and bring it to the top left a little bit, and sometimes down just a tad. So click OK, and let's figure out whether this is the right color for this design or not. So always make a new layer when you're working with different colors, and hover to Photoshop, figure out which red color is going to be the first highlight we put in. And definitely a tip I can give everyone when they're doing this is definitely make the highlights a lot smaller than the shadows. And maybe that's just a personal preference between myself, but I think smaller highlights look a lot cleaner than huge, bright ones. Grab that shape builder tool, cut out the color, make sure the sliver looks nice. Like I said, always make extra paths just so you can figure out what it does. Scroll out, look at it, I think it looks pretty good, and basically do the rest of it. Now I am going to pause the video, I'm going to do it myself. I will be right back and you guys will see the entire product finished with the highlights. So I am done with all my highlights, and you can basically see that I have everything done. If you scroll in, you're going to see it a lot more, but if I scroll out, you're going to see that it's just a basic little highlight coming around everything. So and now that you have that done, you can basically start messing around with whatever you want. You guys can go into the corners, you guys can make your own little fake highlights wherever you want. Whatever looks cool in your eyes, it's your design. You don't have to sit there and follow guidelines if you don't want to. And you can basically put stuff wherever you'd like it. It's entirely up to you, your creative process, your doings. Figure out what works best for you. So now that we have that done, we're going to create the quick little retro effect that comes out these sides. All you have to do is make sure everything's unlocked except for that background layer. Go to Object, hit Control G or click Group. And this is really easy. Hit Control C, Control F, open up this little document layer right here, and then go on your keyboard on the down arrow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit I on your keyboard, make that black, then click your selection tool or hit V, hit Control C, Control F, go 1, 2, 3 down, and then 1, 2, 3 to the right. And then you're gonna basically take this and then make it any blue color you can basically grab your hands on. Alright, take the top layer that you just made that blue on, bring it to the bottom, grab the middle layer, or the top layer now, bring that into the middle, and you're basically gonna get this little cut. And you can hide that first layer now, so you only have these two. And you can basically grab your shape builder tool, hold Alt, and then delete everything that's not blue, because you don't really need it. If you want to leave it there, you definitely can, but you want to delete basically everything that's not on that blue color. So now that you have that done, click on the edge. In the first color, you want it to always be the highlight, so try to grab the blue highlight as soon as you can. What I like doing is working off the dark color and then watching my color picker tool, and as soon as it touches that really bright, you'll see it change and you'll be good. Leave that there. Alright, hit Control C, Control F, and that's going to go to the top now, or excuse me, above the bottom one. Bring that to the bottom, click I on your keyboard, click the background layer, hit V on your keyboard, and go over and down 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit Control C, Control F, bring the second to the last layer down to the bottom, hit I on your keyboard, grab the second brightest color, which is going to be your middle color, and go down 1, 2, 3, and go over 1, 2, 3. Control C, Control F, bring the second to bottom layer down to the bottom, hit I on your keyboard, grab the background layer, and you're basically going to go down 5 again, over 5, and then lastly, do it one more time, but this time go down 3, over 3, and then grab your shadow color. And then, behold, we have our very fancy retro style. Hover over everything, hit group it all together, highlight it again, go over to your align tool, put it in the middle, and you're basically set. So this is going to be the tutorial. Now you can take this and start doing whatever you want with it, whether it's adding shadows, taking away shadows. Basically figure out whatever you want to do. You guys can put it into Photoshop, mess around with that a little bit. All you have to do is make sure you delete that black stuff and then hide the background layer. Sometimes even that black color looks pretty cool. So that's basically it. To give you guys an idea of what else you can do, you can always make a new layer above it and start adding your own shadows, this time being casted from the entire thing. And just a little recommendation when you're doing it, always make the shadow the background color, and then go over to your opacity and lower it to like 25 or 30%. Make it a little over exaggerated. And then you can see that it brings a little shadow here, creates it a little bit more professional look, but that's up to you guys. So I hope you did like the tutorial. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to my channel, and if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, want to show me what you're working on, my email is going to be in the description below. Everything you want is in the description below, and that's basically it. Like I said, hope you guys enjoyed, and leave a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in a later on video. Peace out.
Okay, I'm killing up. I should do a big hoe. Motherfuck the world. I don't want 1,000,000 kids though. I feel like the man now. I don't need no intro. I make you my son, but you never be my kinfolk. Do it for my love, and I do it for the family. Tell my baby mama she won't never need a plan B.